Today, the second day of Rosh Chodesh. Here, we're up to Daf Ayin Aleph. In fact, we're up to Daf Ayin Aleph, but Aleph, towards the bottom of the page. I'm learning about lending money ribas to a goy. According to one day in the Gemara, it's actually forbidden with the Rabbanon. But the Torah already and Shalom Paskas of today might be different because we do all our business with the goy. So the reason that we might learn from them is not so bad. And there's a whole discussion about a mummer, somebody who is a yid, but it deliberately sets to out to not to follow the Torah. Are you permitted to lend him with ribas or not? So we're up to the bottom of the page. Very bottom of the page. Our rabbis learned. It says you're not allowed to obviously pay interest, lend interest. But what you could do is you can become a guarantor. And that's difficult because we're going to learn in the Mishnah later that everyone who's involved in the loan is committing an aveira, including the witnesses and including the guarantor, because he's a facilitator. Without him, the loan would never have proceeded. So, someone has a question, Leman, who's the Ore for? Ilema Ore Yisrael, that he's a guarantor for Jewish loans. But it says later on in a Mishnah, Elu Ivin, the following Eva Beloisa said in Aveda, Hamalva, the lender, Haleva, the borrower, Ha'odim, and the guarantor, regardless of what kind of guarantor they are, whether as we'll soon see the different kinds of guarantors, but Adim and the witnesses. We're talking about a goy. If somebody lends money with interest to a goy, and there's a guarantor, the guarantor is committing a sin. Why? But why is the guarantor? If somebody borrows money from a guy, and the guarantor to that thing is Ibn Aveda, you have to wonder why. Why should be Ibn Aveda? Says the Gemara, how can you tell me that it's talking about a guy? You tell what? That Reuven borrowed money from a guy, and this Shimon, the other, signed it. So what's the problem? The problem is as follows. And before we get to the problem as follows, since that if the goy in the goyish law, the din is that that the in a Yiddish law, you go after the leiva, you go after the borrower, and if the borrower cannot pay, then you go to the audit, to the guarantor to collect. In the goyish law, you go directly to the guarantor and you get paid from him. So the question is very simple. The question is, how can you say that? What does it say in the Braisa here? That an audit you're allowed to be. If we're talking about an Orev to a goy on behalf of a yid who is borrowing from a goy and paying the goy interest, and you're the Orev to pay, so what's the problem, right? So the Braisa says you're allowed to, but there is a problem. You know why? Because in goyish law they go directly to the guarantor. So let's say the yid borrowed $100 and he has to pay interest $120. In the goyish law, you go directly to the guarantor, collect the money, and then that yid turns around. The guarantor turns around to the leiva and he says, "Well, you owe me this money, and you have to pay it to me." So it comes out that this Eid now is as if this Eid lent the $100 to this second Eid, and the second Eid is going to pay him back 120. So that's a case of ribas, a case of interest. So the Gemara asks, how can you say that it's permitted if this Orev is out of a guarantor? For Yiddish borrower, how does the guy work? The Azul Basar Arva, he goes directly to the Orev, he goes directly to the guarantor. So this Orev now turns around to the guy, and it's as if the Orev turns around, since the Orev is the one who owes the money. It's as if the Orev now then turns to the Yid. He lent the money by the moment he paid it now. He lent it to the Yid. What do you lend? The same money that the Yid had. Is as if the Orev now lent it to him $100, and the Yid is going to pay him back 120. So the Gemara says, in other words, The Orev we borrowed $100 from the guy, but he's paying back 120. 100 is the principal and 20 is the interest. But since the guy goes directly to this Orev, and the Orev now turns around to the Yid and says, "Well, the money that you received as if I lent it to you, which is all you receive is 100, but I need back 120. That's what I paid the guy." So it's as if the second Yid is borrowing from, as if the borrower is borrowing from the Orev, just the principal, and he's paying back interest. So how's that for a minute? Rav Shai says, "You keep all Lord that this guy said." I am going to follow the Jewish law, which is I'm going to go to the Levi. So I lent the Levi $100, and I'm going to go to the Levi. If the Levi cannot pay, then I will go to the borrower. So therefore, the borrower now pays the 120 to the guy, and now the borrower is the one who's now lending to the Yid. Look, I paid 120 on behalf of you to the guy, so you owe me 120. There's no interest involved because I paid 120. I paid 120, and now, starting now, I just lent you the money right now because really he went to you. He never lent me the money. In the Goyish law, as if he lent to the Arab the $100, and now the Eid, and when the Arab pays as if he lent now the $100 to the Eid, and you're taking from the 120, that's interest. But in the Yiddish law, you go first to the Leiva. So who received the money? The Leiva. The Leiva can't pay. You go to the Arab. The Arab pays the 120. It's as if now the Arab lent the money to the Yid. How much did he lend? How much did he pay on behalf of the borrower? 120. So he's entitled to get 120. There's no interest involved in it. So, but they told about a guy, he accepted to follow the Yiddish way. So that was the question. If you follow the Yiddish way, there's no interest at all. He keep a lot of Yisrael. He was namelish because no interest at all. I'm going to say she keep a lot of zoo. Keep a lot of zoo. He accepted only son. He accepted not to go to the guarantor, but rather to go to the borrower. But he did not accept the rule of no interest. So that he still wants. The Mishnah said, Mal the Yisrael that the Yid, and we was a bit cryptic, and we explained before what you want to explain right now. I was talking about that the Yid, let's say Reuben borrowed from a guy, and Reuben's about to pay the guy. He comes along Shimon and says, the money you're about to pay the guy, lend me the principal, and you still have a month to do up your sleeve. I'll take it, and I'll pay the guy. So the din is that if it's as if the Yid is lending the second Yid $100, and the second Yid is paying 120. But if he was standing next to the guy, and the guy said, it's all right, give it to him, as if the first Yid then is an agent, a shliach, a proxy on behalf of the guy, because the guy was there, and therefore it's as if the guy lent directly to the Yid. There's no problem of interest. That's what the mission says. The guy is there. I will leave it not if he did it on his own. If a Yid borrowed money from a guy, beribis, with interest. And he wanted to give it back. But so second Yid said to him, look, you still have a couple of months up your sleeve. I need money straight away, and you already have the credit, you have the money. Why don't you just lend it to me and I'll pay it? Give me the $100 principal that you borrowed, and I'll take care of it. And I will give you back not 100 but 120, because that's what you owe to the guy. Whatever you're going to pay the guy, I'll pay you. So lend me the $100 of principal that you borrowed, give that to me, and then I will give you the money that you have to give the guy. With the interest. What's the problem? Ultimately, he's going to the guy. But who's lending it to the second Yid? The first Yid. Also, to the first Yid is lending it. But why just saying that's the guy's mutter? It's as if he's a shliach on behalf of the guy. And we're going to be making and say as if the guy lent it to the Yid. Likewise, Nochri, the other case is Nochri Shalom of Mais Misrael. If a guy borrowed money from a Yid, beribus. A guy borrowed money from the Ribus. He wanted to pay back to him. So another Yid found the guy and said, look, you borrowed $100. He said to the guy, you have some time, obviously. Why don't you lend me the $100 that you have to give 120 to the Yid? I'll give you the 120 and you'll pay it back to the Yid. But now, since the guy is the one who's lending it to you, the first borrower was a guy, and he's lending it to you, so you're paying the guy interest, no problem. But in this case, exactly the converse. If the guy is standing next to the Yid, as if the guy is a shliach of the Yid, so the Yid is lending to the second Yid, and paying ribas is forbidden. Also. Now, Bishleim is safe, and so we're treating the relationship between the Yid and the guy, regardless whether the guy is the lender and the Yid is the first borrower, or the guy is the first borrower, the Yid is a lender, as a shliach of each other. If they're standing next to each other, it means they're a shliach. The problem is, we know there's no shliachs between a Yid and a guy. El Reisha, since there's no shliachs to guy. In the Sefer, by saying the shlichus, we say yes, shlichus l'chumra. The shlichus to guy l'chumra, we're saying, well, it's as if what? It's as if the Yid is the lender, as if the first guy is acting on behalf of the Yid and he's lending to a second Yid. You can't do that in case number 2. And we do have the concept shlichus l'chumra. That's how the Alter Rebbe understood of Kufn and Gimel and Gemara there regarding shlichus on Shabbos. Why a guy can't do malachas on Shabbos? Because as if the shlichus yes, shlichus l'nachri, if it's l'chumra, we can understand that. Elaration, the first case where the lender was a goy and the yid was the first borrower, and we being made to live, the goy tells the yid, go ahead and lend it to the second yid, and he'll pay you then and so on because you're a shlich of the goy. But here, you're a shlich of the kula, not a chumrah. Since there's no shlichus, they should keep no shlich to go. You know, the koshaku minay the visa yid is taking the ribis. You know what we're talking about here in case number one. The guy said, you know what, put it on the ground. You owe me money, he says to the first yid, you put it on the ground. So the first yid is no longer in the picture. And then he says to the second yid, pick it up. So the guy is directly lending to the yid, and that's why the second yid can take it and pay, back the principal with the interest. Because the guy really, he's lending it. Since good, the yid paid back, he put it down, and now the guy. We're talking about a case where the guy, he didn't tell you put it down as if you paid up. He goes, you know what, I'll lend it to the yid. He never said to the yid, you paid up already, you still owe me the money, but you want to bring the second yid and help him out. I'll take the money and I'll lend it to the second yid, as if this guy is a shliach of the first yid. Still, what's the chiddush? If the guy physically took it, and at the end of the day, it's his money, what's the chiddush that you can do that? I would have thought, no, I would have thought that he's acting as a shliach on behalf of the yid, even though it's his money. He's acting as a shliach on the yid, and we said, yes, shliach is the chumrah, as if the first bar yid is lending to the second yid. That's not so. Rashi says, here's a big chiddush, and the Gemara is going to reject it out of hand. When do we say ein shlichus l'nochri? When do we say there's no shlichus to goy hani mili betruma when it comes to truma? Because there's a special pasuk. Ava b'chol ha'toyda kula. The rest of the toyda, yes, shlichus l'nochri. There's shlichus by a goy. As the Magen Avraham says in Shlichus Shabbos, that there's shlichus between one goy and the next goy. So there's shlichus by a goy as well. What do you call the shlichus by a goy, and maybe to a yid also in all other matters. As the Gemara of Hodravashi Barusi, definitely it's outside. It's not acceptable. Or bedusi, it's nonsense. So on. Why can't a guy act by truma as a shliach? See, it says in pasuk, this is how you should give truma gam atem, also you. Ma atem. So we dashin. It could have said atem you. I mean also you. Who's also your substitute? Ma atem, just like the you. Benebris has to be yid. Absolute chachim. Your substitute. Nami benebris has to be yid. Ready Gemara, and the Gemara continues. Shlichus the chol ater kulam truma. Where do you think the shlichus is all taken from truma? Rashi Brusi. Since we learn shlichus in the whole Torah from truma, and by truma it has to be yid, so the whole Torah is the same thing. Rashi Brusi. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the Gemara Kedushin of Mem Beis and where it talks about holding a shlichus, the Gemara rejects learning from truma. In fact, the Gemara learns it from other places, from Tupsukim, from the Ila, that Tupsukim where Yeshleis Varaveda, everywhere else, the Yeshleis Varaveda, also the concept of shlichus there as well. The Gemara starts off with Gittin and Kedushin. We learn, and finally we learn from Korban Pesach, but we don't really learn from truma. Rashi adds a very interesting thing. Rashi adds the words "shlichus the chol ha'toyda kula." So that's Rashi shei shluchah k'maisa. What does Rashi want? Oh, that's what we're talking about. So the chayda the pshat like this. That as the base of Engel writes, are three different categories of shlichus. The lowest level is the guy does it, we get the credit. The highest level is that the shlich is you. What we learned when the Gemara talks about Korban Pesach, that where we learn that shlichus works, all we know from there is that shlichus works. But how? We don't know. Once we've established shlichus work, we go back to truma. Because the Gemara said truma might be an exception because whatever truma, but we go back to truma and say, now that we know that shlichus works from other psukim, now let's see what kind of relationship is there between the shliach and the mshalech. And by truma is the only place where it's descriptive. Gam atem, this person is a substitute for you, which means that shliach and kamaisi means it's mamish yours. That's what Rashi is saying here. Shliach not that shlichus works, because that we learn from other places, but that shliach kamaisi we learn from here. He can answer the version. I mean, when you say shliach hanimili inhula yidon, a guy to eat cannot be a shliach. Nani do a yid to a guy, it could be a shliach. And therefore, and that explains the din that the yid, when he stands next to the guy, is this is a shliach for the guy, he could do it. But the Gemara, what the Rashi Brusi definitely doesn't make sense. Ma'ishna inhula yidon. What's the logic why they to him cannot be a shliach? The loy no, the chsiv atem gamatem l'rabbi chachas shliach is ma'atem nebedi like you have to eat after chacham is shliach also be yid and nan we do the same reason we cannot be a shliach on behalf of a guy because it says gam atem, it talks about the shliach and talks about the shliach, and the shliach says atem has to be yid. It nan you do nami, so a yid for a guy also ma'atem nebedi kamar has to be yid. And what Ravashi Bruce here, Ravashi is nonsense. Ravina says, are you going to get another answer? He the shlichus l'nochil less. They talk to you right. There's no shlichus to a guy. So the if he stands next to a guy, how can you do the How can you go ahead and lend it to the second Yid? You're not acting for the guy, still the Yid who's lending to the second Yid. So we answer, let's go, but Chia midrabban is but Chia there is. And since the second guy is going to pay now directly to Shalech, it's as if he's zeichel the money to the Shalech. Me didn't have a cotton. How do you know you can have Zechia without Shlichus? We find the same thing by a child. A child cannot be a Shlich. Avagad the less the child cannot be a Shlich. And the Rashi here brings, because we learned from Hegdish, and a child cannot make Hegdish, which is a bit problematic, because a 12-year-old could make Hegdish. And we learn from other places that a child cannot be a Shliach. Them in Gimel and condition. Nevertheless, East lays Chiyim and Rabban. The child has Chiyim and Rabban. We learn later on, we learn later that the child can be Zoich with Rabban. So we see that Chiyah and Shlichas are not related. So therefore, even though Goy cannot act as a Shlich, or you cannot act as a Goy, but you could be Zoich. That's what happened here. The first Yid he gave when he lends the money. The second Yid is Zoich on behalf of the Goy, and therefore as if he's like linked with the Goy. And it's paying the Goy, the Yid was not to the Yid who is in the middle. Shemavloi is different. Yisrael not correct. Yisrael asile kral shlichus. Akum le asile kral shlichus. A guy can never become a shlich. There's no schir there either. But yeah, by a cotton, one day he'll become a mitzvah or a bas mitzvah. He'll have shlichus, therefore they can also have schir. Now there's a big discussion with the Rishonim whether schir is an extension of shlichus, whether schir is like zeres hakasav, it's a choshen marit and sure. In this Gemara here, it seems the Gemara separates the two. You can have schir without shlichus. And even by a cotton who has a schia, you say one day be shlicha, but right now it doesn't have shlicha. So how can schia work? Sounds like schia is not mitab shlichus, only the kosher. Others say no. For ketchum, here's an ayah that schia is not shlichus. A goy doesn't have schia because he has no shlichus. A cotton, because they have shlichus in the future, so the rabbanim we already gave them schia right now that they can be zeich. Okay, so I'll continue tomorrow, Mr. Shem.